What is going on, guys, on the live stream? Let me fix that camera angle so you can see a little bit more of my beautiful face there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It means a lot. Yeah, so we're getting ready to start here in a sec. I'm actually going to go get some water so I can have some refreshments when I take my break. So yeah, we're going to start. We got pretty quick, I'd say 45-minute show tonight. Nothing too crazy. We're going to talk about Busch Gardens Tampa and how Tigris is rumored to maybe having just the having no over-the-shoulder restraint since it is testing with that. And I'll go more into why I think that and why people are speculating that. Kennywood has installed the tallest piece of track for steel curtain. Alton Towers has officially removed the VR system for their the Galactica roller coaster they have there, the flying coaster. Six Flags Over Georgia, we know that is going to be painted cherry red with black supports, and there might be a possible retheme. We don't know that. That's not official, and that's just something that we like to play around with. Dolly Parton herself for Dollywood has announced that Wildwood Grove will open on May 10th. So that's something we're going to talk about as well. Then on the Coaster Craze, we're going to talk about the big thing that happened this past week. Busch Gardens 2020 got announced, or leaked, more like it, from Busch Gardens fans. So that's something we're going to talk about. We're also going to be talking about what is the best UK park. We got some viewer responses. And then we're going to talk about what is the best Japanese park. And that'll be next week's weekly poll, so we'll get some responses from you guys. So I'm going to go get some water. I don't know if anyone's watching right now. It doesn't look like... Oh, we have one viewer. So someone's watching. So yeah, that's going to be the rundown for today. I'm going to be back in like a minute or so, and we will start this podcast. We are getting on a roll. Okay, guys, back. Let's see. All right, so we're gonna start now. So it is my video saying, I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about. We're going to start here in a sec, though, so let me... Boom, 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 boom. Okay, let me edit something real quick, and then we'll be ready to go. Okay. Let's get this set up and ready. Ooh. Hello, testing the audio. Here we go, testing the audio. Hello. Let me get that back on my speakers. Hello, testing the audio. Hello, I am testing the audio for this theme park podcast based off roller coasters. Roller coasters are fun. Confused real quick. Okay, so the audio sounds good. Sorry about that. Was a little bit of a delay there, as my my audio is messed up there for a sec. Okay, so we are starting the podcast, so I do like to remind everyone that while I'm recording the podcast, I'm probably not going to be trying to respond to people in the audience. Hello, Seth. Thank you for watching. So yeah, we're going to start this podcast. So here we go. Okay. Let me do something real quick, and then we will. I know I keep saying that. There we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coaster Talk. Oh, it started off weird. That's why I tested, and it didn't work. Okay. Test, test, test. Is it working now? Okay, there it goes. It has been a long, long off season, but it has finally come to an end. That is right. I am James Barber, your host, and this week I rode a roller coaster. It's finally happened. I am so excited that it happened. And actually, this weekend I'll be riding a roller coaster again. I'll be going back to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg for the event Coasting for Kids. And so it's been a great, great, great week this week. And sadly, we don't have a guest on this week. We've had a guest on basically every episode of Season 2 so far. But this week, I thought I'd go back to the traditional format where it was literally just me. And so there is no other guest or no other sidekick to be doing the podcast with me this week. It's just me one-on-one with the audience this week. But guys, do we have a lot to talk about in this segment coming up, Attraction News? Because while these aren't the biggest announcements in the industry, these aren't the largest announcements that we've gotten this year, we do have a couple of ones that are pretty interesting and a couple of ones that they're small, but they do add an impact in the industry. So we're going to talk about that in Attraction News. I don't like how I started that off. Yeah, Seth, I'm not doing a podcast with anybody today. I could have probably gotten a guest on, but no, I did not really want to. I'm going to redo that intro, though. Did not like that at all. Boop, boop, boop. Alrighty. Let's try that again. Let's try that intro again. I did not like that. All right. It has been a long off season, but it has officially come to an end for this host of this podcast right here. That's right. My name is James Barber, and you were listening to your source for everything roller coasters, and I have ridden a roller coaster finally. It has been almost 2 months now without me. I've been on any roller coaster. My last roller coaster was at Funland of Fredericksburg, and that was Twist and Shout. And now it is finally time for me to have gotten back on another roller coaster. And I did this past weekend. I went to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg for their member preview day. And I don't really have anywhere in the podcast that I'm talking about this, so I will kind of talk about it a little bit right now in the opening of the show. So we did go to membership pass holder preview day for Busch Gardens, and we got on all the coasters, other than, we didn't get on Invader or Tempesto because they had longer lines, and I was not really there to ride the coasters as much as just check out the park and have a good day. And those rides did have long lines, so we did we ride a lot, all the major coasters, and that was a lot of fun. And we also got to go and talk with Kevin from Busch Gardens, who is the president of the park, and he actually teased with us the 2020 project that Busch Gardens Williamsburg has it's been leaked from their fan site, bgwfans.com. And so we'll talk about that later in the podcast. But we did get teased. We actually got a hat from Busch Gardens Williamsburg that says 2020 on it. And it was a lot of fun. Great event. And so if you're ever looking to go to a pass holder preview event for Busch Gardens, definitely recommend it. Especially because this opened a whole weekend before King's Dominion's even having their tease. So Busch Gardens was the first park to open in Virginia, and the first park to open for a while in this area. Carowinds is opening this weekend. A lot of parks are opening this weekend coming up, but Busch Gardens was the first to be opened this weekend in this area. So that was a lot of fun, but we do have a lot to talk about this week. We have over 5 things to talk about in the Attraction News segment. Usually we have like 2 or 3. This week there's 5 things to talk about. So let's go over to Attraction News and talk about those things happening in the industry. Okay. Nothing on attraction news this week is something record-breaking. I don't want to start off. You want to keep it clear. Busch Gardens Tampa just basically revealed some pretty big secrets to us. No, they didn't really. It was Midway Mayhem. It wasn't on their YouTube channel. Okay. Busch Gardens Tampa Bay is going a different direction. Oh my gosh. Busch Gardens Tampa Bay might be going another direction in terms of their Skyrocket 2 Tigris. As we know, in the previous years when SeaWorld parks have had Skyrocket 2 models, they have had the over-the-shoulder comfort collar restraints that we have seen on other SeaWorld Skyrocket 2s. And Busch Gardens Tampa is actually testing their Tigris Skyrocket 2 coaster without any comfort collars. The ride is rumored to be opening soon, so this is showing that, who knows, this could be one of the first. Will be the first Skyrocket 2 without these restraints. And if we go back and look at Tempesto or Electric Eel testing, they were doing all the testing with the restraint system in place and with water dummies. And there's no water dummies and there's no over-the-shoulder restraints. So either they are testing very early and this coaster isn't going to be opening and they're just testing it really early and they're just going to put the water dummies and put the actual over-the-shoulder restraints on later in the season when they officially open this ride, or it's not going to have those over-the-shoulder restraints, which would be great. I think a lot of Florida people would be actually very happy towards that, especially the enthusiasts that know that the comfort collars are terrible. I think a lot of them will be happy that Tigris will not. And I already like Tigris more than Tempesto and Electric Eel because I just love the color scheme. It's very vibrant. It really sticks out. And I think it's a great color scheme in general. So even regardless if they have the over-the-shoulder, I think it'll be one of my favorite, at least in the SeaWorld chain, because of that awesome color scheme. So yeah, this ride might not have over-the-shoulder trains. That is a big, big deal, especially for a lot of SeaWorld fans, because finally we're getting a coaster that a lot of people have been wanting for. I mean, I know since I've joined the community and they started these comfort collars with Tempesto, it has been a big deal that enthusiasts were very upset with them, and they would just ride one time for the credit because the restraints were so bad. But then you go to like Phobia of Fear, Knoebels, at Lake Compounce, and it's so much better, and it's such a better ride, and it's just an overall better experience, and it's a ride that actually people want to re-ride and re-ride and re-ride because it's so free, it's so open, it's so great. So if this is like that, I think Busch Gardens Tampa will have a win on their hands. They will have a coaster that people are going to enjoy, and it won't be those over-the-shoulder trains getting in the way and being very annoying. But I don't know. I feel like SeaWorld might be throwing them on there at the last second, right before it opens, because it would be very strange for them to be, especially when Electric Eel just opened last year and they had them on there, to all of a sudden be like, hey, you know what? Let's not have them on there anymore. I think it's a little bit of a weird, that's a 180 right there. So I don't know. We're curious to see what happens with with Tigris coming to Busch Gardens Tampa in 2019. Kennywood, as of March 14th, has installed the highest piece of track for steel curtain. That is a big, big deal, as the coaster is going to speculate to be open in early 2020. And so now that they have this piece of early 2020, what am I talking about? Oh boy, I could not remember. I might just restart that whole thing. Not from the... As of March 14th, Kennywood has installed the highest piece of track for steel curtain. That is a big deal, as the coaster is speculated to be opening later this year, and it looks like they're right on track with the ride. The ride looks fantastic, and we are getting some great drone footage from Kennywood. They are publishing it on their YouTube. They're keeping us very updated, and the ride looks fantastic. I'm really excited for it to be at what I like to call my third home park, because I do get to go to Kennywood usually once or twice every year, as I have family in Pittsburgh, and so I'm really excited to head up there this year and ride the coaster. It looks great, and they have installed the tallest piece of track, so that's a big accomplishment for the park. Alton Towers has officially removed the VR system from their Galactica flying roller coaster. So this is a B&M Flyer, and it is this is from the park. This is improved. Alton Towers has announced that they are going to be removing, or they have removed, Alton Towers has announced that they are going to be removing the VR system from Galactica, which is their B&M flying roller coaster, and it has been removed, quote, to improve guest ride experiences and satisfaction ratings. So they're going to remove it so they can get those, because obviously people weren't enjoying the VR on the ride. And this is something that is very similar, because it is the exact same system that we saw in Kraken at SeaWorld, and people just don't seem to enjoy this. It seems to be uncomfortable. It seems that maybe the experience is being altered in a way that is negative, because they said the satisfaction ratings will be being increased. So they're hoping that taking this VR off of it will increase the satisfaction. So if they are doing that, then people were complaining, people were saying it was not good, or they could hear guest feedback as walking out of the park or walking out of the ride queue, saying that was not as enjoyable with the VR. So the park has announced that this is changing. They are going to be removing it, and I think it's a smart decision. Honestly, I think VR has no place on roller coasters, in my personal opinion. I think the roller coaster itself is the experience. You don't need to add more to the visual experience, because running down past trees and going past the water, and even if you're like in a field, say I-305, where it's basically just in a field, there is no like atmosphere in terms of beauty aspects. That is still your atmosphere. You're flying past the grass. You're flying past the station. Being able to see what's happening in real life and not some animated video game, I think, is the better experience, in all honesty. And so I think it's a smart decision for the park, and I think obviously they are going to be improving guest ride experiences and the satisfaction rating. So they believe that this is going to help improve the ride as a whole and get the satisfaction ratings from their guests up. Six Flags Over Georgia, we know, was repainting Georgia Scorcher. We now know it's not going to be repainted the same color it used to be, which was the orangish color. It's going to be cherry red with black supports. I just said orange, and it was not orange. It was yellow. 1 second. Oh, I gotta plug this in. I liked where I was going with that, too. That kind of sucks. Let's see if we have anybody watching on the live stream. We now know it's not going to be repainted the yellowish color it was before. It is actually going to be completely repainted a cherry red color with black supports. And it was primed with primer, so it's going to be hopefully not peeling anytime soon and showing through with that awful, awful cracked paint that it had before. So that's really exciting. And there is some speculation that there might be a complete retheme of this ride. And what I mean by that is there is not going to be a Georgia Scorcher. I think some people are thinking it might be renamed, rethemed, because a cherry red color doesn't really go with Georgia Scorcher in my opinion. If it was like a dark red or maybe an orange or like it was before a yellow, that seems like fire or a scorched. But a cherry red seems not entirely to do with flames or scorching in terms of, if you know what I mean there. So I don't know. I could really care less what the name of the ride is. It's a fun ride. It's a great ride. And I think regardless of the name, regardless of the theme, because Six Flags doesn't do too great of a job with theming anyway, it's still going to be a fantastic ride. It's going to look even better now. And the cherry red is really going to pop. Because before it was the pretty similar color. Because, you know, Goliath is orange. Georgia Scorcher was yellow. And they kind of blended together. And it wasn't really noticeable driving into the park. Because when I drove into the park, I saw Georgia Scorcher. And I was like, cool, cool, cool. But now that cherry red, bright red, is going to pop out. Because Goliath is going to have the orange. And then right behind it, you're going to see this bright red and black coaster. And it's really going to appeal to the eye, and I think it's going to look really fantastic. So I think it's a great, great, great decision for them in the long run. And again, I could really care less the theme or the paint color or anything like that, but I do think a cherry red color will fit. So some people are thinking maybe a Harley Quinn theme, because it is going to be red and black, of course. So maybe a new DC comic theme. I don't know. Again, don't really care. I do like the Georgia Scorcher name, and I guess some people would do the thing where some people would consider it a new credit, even though literally it's just a new theme. But I know there are some people that literally will change the credit to becoming a new credit if they just change the wheels or anything. So I don't know. That's a debate for another day, but I don't know. Maybe a possible retheme for Georgia Scorcher at Six Flags Over Georgia. Dollywood, actually Dolly Parton herself, has announced that Wildwood Grove, the new section of their park coming in 2019, is actually going to be opening May 10th, 2019. Much of the area is actually finished with just the final installation work and testing process on the attractions needed to actually open the park. So they are going to test the rides. They're going to final installations in, like maybe I believe they still need to do a couple buildings here and there, maybe a restroom or here and there. But the rides are pretty much done. So that's great. And that's awesome. And they are ready to open in May. That is fantastic. That was right around where I thought it was going to open. So they're on track. They're doing great. But this is the end of Dollywood's 5-year plan. I believe that was 5 years ago. So Dollywood, they announced about 2014 that they were doing this 5-year plan. They were going to add some crazy amount of money. I believe it was definitely in the millions. I believe it was in the 100 millions, where they were going to, announce a bunch of attractions. They announced Lightning Rod. They did all this stuff regarding all their attractions. And they added a bunch of attractions in both Splash Country and Dollywood. So this is the end of it, I believe. This is the end of their 5-year plan. So who knows what's to come next? Is it going to be a dead season next year after 2019? Is 2020 going to be just to relax, and 21 relax, and 2022 relax, and then maybe in 5 more years you get another couple more rides? Or is this going to be maybe they continue to build on it? Maybe they're just like, hey, we're doing good. Let's just keep going and going and going and going, and there is not going to be any stop. I'm curious to see what happens to Dollywood next year, because I think that's really going to show to us if they are planning on continuing to grow, or if they're going to hold back and see what happens and wait around some. But that is it for attraction news. Like I said, nothing too big this week coming out of attraction news, but next segment we have something huge to talk about, something that I am really grateful that I get a chance to talk about with the audience, because it is happening at my home park, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, and we're going to go into Coaster Craze. So let's get into Coaster Craze. Well. Hello, everybody. Thank you guys for tuning on in. We just finished the attraction news segment of the show, and now we're going to talk about Busch Gardens. I would actually like to read up on this a little bit more before I start, because I don't want to leave anything out, because it's a lot to do. I'm reading the Busch Gardens fans article. So I'm going to hit some points, and maybe if you guys have any points that you were thinking about with the new coaster coming in 2020 for Busch Gardens Williamsburg, not Tampa, you guys can let me know. So obviously the station is pretty generic. It's similar to what they said. They said Alpengeist and even Apollo's Chariot. So it's going to be similar to that. It's going to come out with an S-curve. Then it's going to go in the first launch. It's going to have a zero winder, which is... The first half of the version appears to be fairly faint. The first half of this version appears to be that of a fairly run-of-the-mill zero-G roll. That said, instead of continuing straight as the path of a standard zero-G roll would, the roll out of the inversion sends riders diving down and to the right, more akin to the second half of a corkscrew. Okay. Then we're going to have the ravine turn, the outward bank turn right. The track switch. Then we're going to have the second launch, then the vertical spike, then the third launch, the top hat, Ryan River drop, high speed turn, outward banking airtime hill, terrain hugging turn. This is just insane. This is so much going on. Inverted airtime, ground hugging turn, another S-curve, a wall stall. I don't even know what the heck that is. What is a wall stall? Picture an airtime hill with the track banked 90 degrees at the element's peak. A clip of wall cells. Okay, so it's almost like a wave turn almost, but it's like lower to the ground. Final brake run. Okay, so that's kind of. I'm not going to talk about this new like pathways and stuff. Do any of you guys have any thoughts though? So let's get started. I'm really excited for this Busch Gardens coaster though, especially with. I would like to know if anyone in the audience actually believes. I think a possibility of being top 10 steel in the world. I'm curious in seeing if it will be a Giga or not, because that's the one thing the Busch Gardens fans seems to be very unsure about, is the actual height of the coaster and the speed as well. Well, the stats really. They know like the elements, they don't know the stats completely. Let's start the podcast then. So Busch Gardens Williamsburg, my home park, has announced something very big. Well, they kind of announced it, semi-announced it at the event I went to this weekend where they kind of teased out as that something big was coming in 2020. But the actual leaks that I'm going to be reading from you are not official. This is from Busch Gardens Williamsburg fans who have sources, and I really do trust them. I believe that they are a reliable source. So this is nothing of unreliable sources. So they have basically confirmed to us the elements and the layout that the new 2020 coaster will be having. So they're really great with what they have. They have blueprints. So if you want to go to bgwfans.com/2019/project2020 revealed, you will be able to witness the entire coaster and see the visual pictures and see the actual elements of the ride will be attaining. So I'm going to try my best to kind of talk about what they're talking about. I'm actually going to go through picture for picture of what they are talking about on here, and then I will go to maybe explain what I think this coaster is going to be and how I think the coaster is actually going to be as a ride, and what do I think personally the stats are going to be, and et cetera, et cetera. So the first element that you are going to be hitting is right out of the station. It's called an S-curve, and that's just like banking to the left, and you're going to go into the first launch. Now, this first launch is just supposedly going to be just to kind of build up some speed. This isn't the main launch of the ride. You probably, they think, going to hit 50 or 60 miles per hour on this. That's what a lot of people are speculating. And then you're going to go into this zero-G winder, which is the first inversion of the ride. And for a while, I was a little skeptical about what this element was. But then I actually read the article, and it said and explained to me, and it's pretty good. So the first half of the inversion appears to be that of a fairly run-of-the-mill zero-G roll. That said, instead of continuing on a straight path as a standard zero-G would, the roll out of the inversion sends riders diving down and to the right, more akin to the second half of a corkscrew. So it's a very interesting element, something that I have not seen before, personally, and I think it looks like a fantastic ride element. And again, that'll be fairly faint of the Park Asterix roller coaster coming, to Park Asterix in 2021. I'm really excited about that. So the next element will be the ravine turn. So as the coaster exits its first inversion, it appears to send riders carrying down a steep slope and into a terrain following heavily banked right turn. So this originally, I believed that this, when I saw before they announced all these elements and they just had like a big helix, I thought it was going to be something fairly faint of Cheetah Hunt's treehouse. I was like, that's gonna be really cool. It's gonna probably go up and have some like airtime going down, and there'll be like a little drop. But it actually looks like it's going to be a banked turn. It's not gonna have any elevation. It'll just be a huge, almost like helix-like element. And so that looks like a lot of. It looks fun. It looks pretty forceful. I'm sure it's gonna be a great element. And then it's going to go into an outward banked turn left. So again, probably some nice airtime on that because it'll be banking you out and you'll be hitting some airtime. And then you're going to another outward bank turn to the right. So you're going to be flying all over the place here on this ride. This ride's really going to be aggressive. And then you're going to go into the track switch. So this is where you're going to pass by the other piece of the track that you're going to be heading onto in just a couple of seconds, actually. And then you're going to go into the second launch. And that is where all the fun, really, truly, I believe, is going to begin. You're going to get launched up, and a lot of the general public that are probably going to be riding this ride for the first time are going to be like, okay, we're going to go over this top hat, and that's cool. And then you're not going to make it over. And I know a lot of general public are going to be like, what is happening? I guarantee you there's going to be someone that's going to be like, what is happening? What is going on? Why are we not going? And you're going to go back, and then you're going to go up the vertical spike, and then you're going to can go back down to the third launch and make it back up and go up the top hat. And this is where the project starts to get a little lost because we don't know how tall either the vertical spike or the top hat are going to be. Busch Gardens Williamsburg fans do believe it's going to be in the 315-foot range. They do believe that, or at least in this article they said that. I know some people said that they actually kind of disclaimed that after the article was released. But as of this article and as of what I'm reading on here, they believe that it's going to be in the 315-foot range. They do. That said, we don't know if the drop will be in the giga range, but the height will, or at least according to this article, will be. So that's really great. I'm really hoping for a giga, but regardless, I think it's going to be a great ride. And then it's going to be the ravine drop. So this is where you're going to go over the ravine that overpasses the Rhine River, which is what we call, that's just the James River in Virginia. So after cresting the top hat, we're going to come out what is most certainly bound to be the most iconic feature on the 2020 coaster. A huge dive towards the park's Rhine River that should be clearly visible from the Rhine River Railroad Trestle and the Oktoberfest / San Marco Bridge. So this is where you pass over and you see Verbolten. Now to the left of that, coming down the ravine, will be this amazing, massive coaster. And I do want to say that they haven't talked about the theme in this coaster, in this article, nor will they, because the theme had not been really talked about yet, and they don't have that information. But I am almost 100% sure that it's going to be, and obviously because I have a reason, it's going to be themed to the Roman gods. Somehow, maybe Mount Olympus, it might be themed to the actual one of the gods. It might be themed to maybe all of the gods. I'm not exactly sure. But when the announcement was made this weekend, when the tease was made, Kevin from Busch Gardens told us that it was going to be the Roman gods. He said the Roman gods, may the Roman gods be in your favor. That was one of the things he said to us. And then he also went on to say the Roman gods have something planned for you in 2020. They have something good for us to come in. So I think that definitely reveals a theme of Roman gods. So I'm excited about that, especially because this is in the Festa Italia section. And for some reason, somebody on Reddit was talking about how maybe the Festa Italia section should be rethemed to Rome. And I'm like, Festa Italia is basically Rome. I mean, that is basically what the theme of that area is. So some people might understand, but Festa Italia literally translates to Festival of Italians. Like, that's what it means. Festa Italia, Festival of Italy. Not Italians, but... So that is what it translates. It's basically already themed to that. So I don't know why people are saying, like, maybe it's going to be themed to Rome. It is already kind of themed to Rome. And it's themed to Italy. So I don't know what that was about. But let me get back on the track of the actual ride. And the next element after that ravine drop, after the top hat, is going to be a high-speed turn. And then the best probably moment of airtime on this entire ride is going to be the outward banked airtime hill, which is reminiscent of Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point with that huge outer banking airtime moment. We're going to get one of those, and we're also going to get one from Intamin. So this is going to be before Park Asterix, so this is going to be like the prototype ride of Intamin doing these new type rides. It's really awesome. And then we're going to have a terrain-hugging turn. So that'll probably be low to the ground, and it'll probably, I would just expect probably get some pretty forceful airtime there, because it will be kind of turning and popping you up and then turning to the right to get you back into the station. Then you'll go through an inverted airtime hill, which is the banking from the previous turn rolls right into the project's 2020 second and final inversion, a long inverted airtime hill. While the park may identify this element differently after the coaster is finally announced, maybe a zero-G stall, I'm calling it an inverted airtime moment. So whoever was writing this article for BGW fans is saying it's called an inverted airtime moment, since that's what Intamin has called the element on their other coasters. So that's basically like a zero-G stall, like we said, but call it what they like, call it what Intamin calls it. And then after that, we're going to go into a ground hugging turn. So it's going to be right on the ground again. And so really what we're talking about in this ride is there's going to be a lot of turns, there's going to be a lot of twists, there's going to be a lot of forceful ejector airtime moments, because we're going to be flying one way and flying another way. And then I think the third time there's going to be another S curve. And then we're going to hit the brakes. And that is the 2020 coaster for Busch Gardens Williamsburg. So I've kind of just basically gone through this entire article. It's insanely long. It is one of the longest articles I've ever had to read, and it was well worth it, because we have found out so much from this about this coaster. It's going to be a fantastic coaster. So is it going to be a Giga, though? That's the big question. That's the big speculation. And I know none of you are expecting me to have the end-all answer, but I really do. I really think it's going to be a Giga. I do think that the 315 marker, I know some people were saying maybe they were just doing that just in case they wanted to, or just in case they believe they were capable of doing it, but they've decided maybe not to. I think the 315 marker is definitely going to be where this coaster is going to be sitting at. And I could be completely wrong. And who knows? Maybe a year from now I'm going to be sitting here and going, wow, I was very wrong about this ride. Maybe I will. I'm not saying I'm correct. I'm just saying I think personally it will be that staple attraction, because I don't feel like that Busch Gardens would attempt another launch coaster and not have it very different from Verbolten. And I know you're going to be like, well, 76 miles per hour, 200 whatever feet tall, that's pretty different from Verbolten. Verbolten goes close to 60. I believe it's 56 or 58, so it's already hitting that 60 range. And they do consider that a family coaster, so I will give you that. But the ride, 76 miles per hour, I don't feel like is too much of a clarification between the rides Verbolten and this new 2020 coaster. I feel like it's definitely going to be hitting, I think in the 90s if it's a Giga. And I think that they're going to try and make it the tallest coaster in Virginia. I think they're going to try to have that staple attraction, and they're going to take that away from King's Dominion, and then King's Dominion is going to be like, oh crap, well, now we need to build something too. I think it's that competition. It's that drive for competition that is going to get this coaster past the 315 marker. Not past it, up to the 315 foot marker. It might not be exactly 315 feet. It might be 310, maybe 308. I do think they're going to try to push the Virginia tallest roller coaster, though. But what do I know? What do I know? You guys might have some better insight. You guys might have a better reason why you don't think it's going to be. But I definitely think I could see it being 315 feet tall, and obviously Busch Gardens fans, as of that article, said that they believed it was going to be as well. So what do you guys think about the Busch Gardens 2020 project? Do you think it's going to be what Busch Gardens fans has announced, as leaked to us? I don't think there's much room to say that it's not true and they're not reliable, because they have been pretty much correct all along. Every project I've seen them announce or tease or leak to the audiences has been correct. They announced Finnegan's Flyer. They did Invader. So they're pretty spot on. So there's no room for saying that they're not reliable at all. So I think it's true. I think that's what's coming to Busch Gardens. I do think it's going to be a Giga. But again, I want to know your guys' opinions. So comment on the website. We have we have a comment section down there on episode 44. You can go to Instagram and you can message me directly. You can also email me at james@coastertalkpodcast.com and let me know what you think. Love to hear some of your feedback. Let me know. So that is it about Busch Gardens, the new coaster coming in 2020. Let's go on to the next segment of the show, where we're going to talk about the best UK theme park. We did have Harry on last week, so in the spirit of him, we did that. And I will reveal some answers from the audience, and I will also give my own opinion on this. So let's go to the break run. Ooh, I dragged down there a lot, but whatever. I was trying to make this a longer episode. I think I dragged on a little bit there at the end talking about the coaster, but regardless, it's okay. Thank you guys all for watching. It means a lot. Okay, so we're going to talk about the UK parks. I'm going to pull up the responses that we got from the guests. And here we go. So anyone in the live stream, actually, give me your answers. What do you think the best UK park is? Because we didn't get too many responses from the audience. Please maybe give a little bit of why you think that as well. I might be able to, if you answer in the next minute or so, I might be able to slide it in there real quick. Because we got a lot of Alton Towers. And, I mean, that's a good answer. I think Alton Towers definitely it's probably the best. But if you guys have any different, or if you have Alton Towers, just explain to me why you think that. Because literally all the responses were Alton Towers, 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 Alton Towers. It's literally all Alton Towers. Except one guy who said Alton Towers, but maybe Blackpool Pleasure Beach as well. So if you guys real quickly want to slide in your responses and maybe describe to me why you think that coaster is the best coaster in the UK, let me know. Yeah, in the UK, yes. United Kingdom. So I'm going to let you guys slide in there real quick. I'll give you guys some time because I know some of you guys might be riding. But when we reach, I'll give you guys like a minute or so to write up some answers. I do want to hear you guys' responses too because that's the fun. I want to have some audience interaction while I'm doing this. Icon's not a park. Itai, Icon is not a park. Best UK park, not roller coaster. I don't know if you thought. Yes, we actually had Harry from CoasterBot on last week, who said that Blackpool actually is one of the best parks in the UK. He said it's very overlooked and it has the traditional theme park feel of something like, and he compared it to Kennywood because that's the park that I go to a lot, and that is the traditional feel. So yeah, I think Blackpool looks like a lot. So I'll read your answer off there, Son. Thank you so much for responding. I'll let you guys, everyone else, even if you haven't gone, just let you, because I haven't gone either, so I'm just kind of blind eyeing this. But I do want to do, what I do on this podcast is I talk a lot about the U.S., basically all about the U.S., and I feel like other people from other countries don't get it talked about at all. So I'm going to be, this weekly poll for this week is going to be what is the best Japanese park. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what people say about that, especially because I know a lot of people haven't been to Japan and talked about that. So I'm going to give you guys one more minute to, okay. Okay, so that's Itai. I know we have 3 people watching, so if anyone else is watching, you got 45 seconds. So hurry up, write your response. And if not, I'm just going to start. I think now that I have a couple Blackpools from the audience, I can start, and it'll be at least a little bit of a debate there. I honestly think Alton looks like the better park, but I've not been, so I do not know. I could be completely wrong. And I do like the traditional setting of Blackpool. I think that looks awesome. It reminds me a lot of Kennywood, and I love Kennywood a lot. It's one of my favorites. Okay, you got 20 seconds, guys. So anyone writing another response? We might not get another response. That's cool, though. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. I don't think we're going to get another response. That's cool. Let's start. So last week we were joined by CoasterBot, or Harry, as many people know him, and he came on the show, and I decided to do something of the best. Let me restart that. Last week we had CoasterBot, Harry Davies, on the podcast, and in spirit of him coming on, I decided to do a poll on what was the best UK theme park. And I don't think we talk about the other countries as much as we should on this podcast. We talk a lot about the U.S., and I feel like other countries get overshadowed due to the fact that I am from the U.S. and I go to U.S. parks a lot. But I do think when I'm considering doing segments, when I'm considering doing attraction news, I need to look more into international events as well. And while there aren't as many international theme parks with news usually happening when I'm looking at least on a bunch of attraction news, I will try to find unique stories from UK and from other parts of the world that I can bring on the podcast and make it more about international theme parks and international, so everyone feels included and so everyone can at least have like a park and be like, hey, I've been to that park. If you're in Europe, you probably haven't been to Kennywood, you probably haven't been to Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay, but you might have gone to Alton Towers, or you might have gone to another park, Europa Park, anywhere like that. You might have gone to one of those parks. So let's talk about that now. So we got a lot of responses, a lot of people saying their favorite UK parks, and I'm going to start off with reading the responses from our Instagram page. So I asked on Instagram, so if you have Instagram and you're not following us yet, go to Coaster Talk Pod on Instagram, follow us, and I will usually be posting the weekly poll up on there so you can answer the question. So the weekly poll for this week, again, best UK theme park, and the first response we got was from CoasterFan98, and he said Alton Towers is his favorite because of the awesome coaster lineup. And I can't disagree with that. The lineup looks fantastic at Alton Towers. And we did get a lot of Alton Towers responses, so a lot of the coaster collection is great kind of descriptions. So never been to a UK park, but based off research, it looks as Alton Towers is the best by far. I don't know if by far, in my opinion. I think there are some other great parks there as well. But I do think it definitely looks like it could be one of the best. Towers for the classic theme park experience, but Blackpool Pleasure Beach is the best as an overall amusement park. So that's a little bit surprising, because I guess theme park experience, not just amusement park experience. As a theme park, you're saying Alton Towers is better, but as an actual amusement park overall, Blackpool Pleasure Beach. So we did get a Blackpool Pleasure Beach slid in there real quick. Someone said Alton Towers because I think it has the best coaster lineup in the United Kingdom, and I think that looks. But as a coaster collection, I do have to agree. I think it looks like the best overall park. I have yet to figure out and find out for myself. I'll definitely be going to Europe in 2020, so I will be very happy to go and check out Alton Towers and see what they got there. Another response said Alton Towers just because of the plain out beauty that the park has. So that reminds me of Busch Gardens. That's why I love Busch Gardens so much. And then we got on our YouTube, if you want to watch us, every time we do a podcast, we record on YouTube. So just check out my social media for more information on when we're going to be recording. We got a response. And Blackpool Pleasure Beach is my favorite park in the United Kingdom. I wasn't impressed with Alton, to be honest. They had a good ride selection, but the park was incredibly trashy when I was there in 2002. I need to go back. Okay, so that's a great response. Blackpool Pleasure Beach, getting a point there. So someone else said they believe Blackpool is the best because of the location and because Icon looks amazing. Alton Towers looks amazing, but Blackpool has a better setting than Alton. So I again have yet to visit any of these parks in the United Kingdom. I really would like to get out there soon and really experience the park. And like I said, 2020 I'll be doing that, so that's exciting. I do think Blackpool Pleasure Beach as an overall park, in my opinion, looks better. And a lot of people are going to disagree and say Alton Towers has better theming, has a better coaster collection, etc. But I'm a really big fan, a really big sucker for traditional amusement parks. I love Kennywood. In a way, I love Cedar Point in some sections because it reminds me of a classical amusement park, especially the front midway. It reminds me a lot of a classical midway with their carousel and rides like that. So I do love the feel of a classic amusement park. And so I think Blackpool Pleasure Beach is going to provide that feeling. And I think I'm going to go into there and I'm going to feel just like I'm in Kennywood, just like I'm in an old theme park that was in the early 1900s. And even though they are going to have the modern coasters like Icon, and they're going to have the big one and all that, I still think I'm going to get that traditional feel from the park, and that's what I really look for in a park. So I do think, in all honesty, Blackpool Pleasure Beach is my favorite in the United Kingdom. As of this is my pre-visit selection. So before I've gone, I'm selecting Blackpool Pleasure Beach as my favorite. But again, have not gone, will be going soon. And I will definitely, when I come, I will be reviewing all the parks, I'm sure, in the UK. So I'm curious to see which ones I actually like better. Thank you guys for the responses. It means a lot. So that's about it. I'm going to finish it up here. We're gonna run about a 35-minute episode podcast. That's not terrible. I would have liked it a little longer, but we didn't have too much. We didn't have too much to talk about in the attraction news segment this week. It was just a bunch of small news stories. Nothing really to brainstorm on there other than the Busch Gardens Tampa news segment. But okay, let's go on. Talk about this week's weekly poll. So me. So again, we really need to start focusing more on other countries and other places in the world. I want to make this more of an international podcast. And so this weekly poll this week is, what is the best park in Japan? I want to know. Is it Fujiko Highland? What do you think it is? There's a lot of them out there. I could list them all, but I'm not really going to do that right now. But there are a lot of parks out there. I know Ace just did a huge Japan tour and explored all of Japan. So if you were on that tour, if you've gone to Japan and you've gone to a lot of the parks, which one did you find was the best? I know there's a lot of great ones out there with a lot of great coasters, a lot of unique coasters, a lot of unique atmospheres. And I'm curious to see. I hope we're going to get a more diverse answer than just what we got with UK, which is basically Alton Towers, Alton Towers, Alton Towers, Alton Towers. I do want to see some reasons why you like them too. So if you're going on the YouTube, you're going on the social medias, and you're going to respond to this weekly poll, please try to add some description to why you think this park is the best Japanese park. Because I don't want just the park name, because I could look up best Japanese parks and figure that out for myself. I want to hear why you think it is, and explain in detail why you think it is. So that means a lot. So you guys can check us out on Twitter at @CoasterTalk_pod. Facebook at Coaster Talk Pod, Instagram at Coaster Talk Pod. I've been James Barber, your host, and I will see you guys all next week. Thank you for listening. Okay, so I'm actually gonna add something in here real quick. So I know I said I was ending it, but I'm not ending it. Actually, I lied. Oh. I'm going to talk about an event I'm going to this weekend. Busch Gardens Williamsburg Coasting for Kids. So if you are the one person that stayed on, congratulations. You're not leaving the podcast because I'm not finished yet. We just got an email from Stephen Amos, who runs the event. I raised over $350 for this event for the kids of Good Kids of the World. So we actually have the entire itinerary here, so I can just go straight to there and tell you guys the prizes I won and tell you guys what we're happening. So okay, so if you stayed on the podcast, congratulations, you're awesome. You're lucky. I'm not actually ending it yet. Yeah, I agree, Sean. Disney. That's one of the only Disney parks I'm actually looking forward to. It really is. I want to go to, obviously I want to go to the big Disney parks, Disney World, Disneyland. I'm not too incredibly excited for them though. But yeah, Disney Sea looks fantastic. Going back this year. Awesome. Yeah. Fujiko is awesome at the operation. Yeah, I'll copy your response real quick. Paste it in the next week's podcast so I can remember that, because I'm not going to remember that entire response. Yeah, thank you for responding. Again, I'm not officially done with the podcast, so whoever stayed on gets to listen to it a little bit more, because I forgot to talk about this event. I'm going to add it in towards the middle of the show. Yeah, that's cool. If you ever are listening to the actual podcast on air, which I don't know if you do or not, actually you can email me, James at Coaster Talk Podcast, and I will put your response on the show. So if you ever are listening where you can't comment or anything, you can email me and I'll read off your response. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Coasting for Kids, and then we are good to go. So I don't really have a place to talk about this. No segment is really centered around this topic, but I did want to bring up the fact that this weekend I'm going to be going to the Coasting for Kids event at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. And you might be asking, what is Coasting for Kids? What is that? What is that all about? So there is a park in Florida, Give Kids the World. It's a charity, and they actually have a park, and it's Give the Kids the World Village, and they have small amusement park attractions. They have like really detailed and themed hotels, and they send these critically ill children to theme parks. They send them all around to the theme parks of Florida, and these kids get a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It's awesome, and it's something that I love, and I really want to support. So I actually took on the challenge of raising money for this organization. And at first, I thought I was going to raise a couple $100s, but I have actually surpassed $350. I'm actually at like 363 or whatever, somewhere around there. It doesn't matter really the quantity, as long as I feel like you're doing it for a good cause. And I did. I got up to there. I'm really excited that I got up to that money. And I did want to read off to you guys, because I know you guys are going to be interested in the theme park aspect of it, but I also did want to tell you guys a little bit about it. But there is a theme park aspect to it. They're actually hosting an event this weekend at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, and I'm going to get to attend it. And while none of this was done for this reason, I know they have the ERT and all that. None of this, the money I raised was not for me to go to this park. I would have done it regardless. But there is an added bonus. We are going to be going to the park, and we're going to be getting ERT on a lot of the rides, getting a lot of attractions, and we're going to be getting behind-the-scenes tours. So let me just read off real quick, because I know a lot of you guys are going to care about the actual theme park aspect of it. So we're actually going to have to be getting up. I'm going to have to be getting up at like 5 in the morning and driving down to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, which is about an hour from where I live. And then I'm going to be going at 7:30 in the morning. I'm going to be registering and getting in the park. And at 8 o'clock, we're going to have a reception where we're going to, talk with the kids, some of the critically ill kids. We're going to have the director of the event, Stephen Amos. He's going to come up and talk with us, he's from Florida. And then we're going to get ERT on Loch Ness Monster, Griffin, Alpengeist, Invader, and Verbolten from 8 in the morning, or 8:30 in the morning, till 10 in the morning when the park opens. So that's 2 hours right there. 2 hours of exclusive ride time on some of the greatest coasters, in my opinion, in the world. You got Loch Ness Monster, which is fantastic. Griffin, which is fantastic. Alpengeist, one of my favorite inverts. Invader, Verbolten, and then all day access to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg at 10 o'clock. The park's going to open. And I'm going to be running to Apollo's Chariot and trying to marathon that a lot. So what are the incentives, though? Because, whenever you do a charity, there's those incentives. You want to do something, you get, if you sell cookies at your school, you get prizes from the school. The incentives for this were pretty great. I didn't even know about the incentives until actually this email came to me a couple of days ago. And so at $100, you get a Coasting for Kids t-shirt that says the logo on that. And you also get admission to the park. So that was like, you get $100, you get the t-shirt, and you also get into the event. And then Coasting for Kids drawstring bag comes into play at $250. And also what comes in at $250 is a Coaster 101 tour, which is going to be, I believe, of Griffin, Verbolten, and Loch Ness Monster. Now, I've gotten this tour before, but I am getting it again since I did raise past $250. So I'm really excited for that. That's really great. And then at $350, which is where I stopped, you get a Coasting for Kids water bottle. That is great. I'm excited for that. I like having some theme park water bottles. And then at $500, it's a Coasting for Kids baseball hat, which I'm not going to get to $500 most likely. But I know many enthusiasts did get past that level. I know Clint Novak, who's raised almost $2,000. He'll get that, and a lot of enthusiasts will. So that's really exciting. So yeah, that's the event. I'm really excited to be attending this event this weekend. It's for a great cause. It's going to be a lot of fun, but it's also charitable. You're doing something for a good cause, and it means a lot to me that people would think about this, think about these kids, and do such a great thing for them. So it's really awesome. There's an organization like this, and it's my pleasure to support them and help them through this cause. The podcast is on iTunes. For some reason, you probably can see right now that I have this logo, this nice logo, and for some reason on iTunes it is like one of my old logos. It won't update on iTunes, but yes, I am on iTunes. So check out the podcast on iTunes. So subscribe, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to end the live stream, guys. That is it. I did run right at 35 minutes, so that's good. Thank you guys so much for watching. Ooh. I'm gonna save the podcast real quick. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. It means a lot.